All right, I'm gonna go over my backcountry kit for snowmobile skiing. So first of all, I got two bags. One bag goes on the snowmobile, one on my back. We'll start with the one that goes on the tunnel of my skidoo. These are really nice bags, BSA. So inside here, there's two waterproof compartments. I won't take this out. This is the big down jacket that I have in here as an extra layer for if somebody gets really cold or if you have to spend the night. My survival gear goes in here, but I've got it laid out here so we can go over it in a little more detail. I do like having this bigger shovel too. So we're digging out a sled. It's got a nice long stem on it and a big blade. So I'll set that aside for a second. Go over some snowmobile specific survival gear for a second here. Siphon, which is useful. If one sled runs out of gas, you can take gas from one sled to another. I've also got a rope that's in the snowmobile in the front, pop up, little pocket there. That say your pull start goes out, you can just wrap it around counterclockwise once you take off your clutch cover and pull it that way. These cam straps, I like these cam straps. Some people would just have rope, but I just like the way these can tension. You can use these two to pull out say a sled that won't start. If you have to tow it out, you can use it for that. Also for building a sled, if somebody gets injured, say in an avalanche or hits a tree or something, you have to build a sled out of skis, a backpack. You really need a good way to fasten it. So this combination, you can successfully make a sled, but pulling out a sled is a bear. First aid, I've kind of stripped down the first aid kit to really basics as far as what I would see useful. You know, like a CPR cup to administer mouth to mouth. I do have a temperature, take somebody's temperature, dilation, just to see how they're doing as far as if they're in shock or really injured. Then I got a forming cast in here, bunch of gauze and things like super glue to, you know, really if there's big wounds. And then also if you want to build a splint, this is really useful as well. So that's my med kit, and then in here I have some, you know, strong painkillers from strong to just leave type painkillers and Tylenol and Advil in here. Emergency blanket. This is a pretty good one. But actually, this could, you know, be super useful as far as even say if you're spending the night and you need some type of base layer on the snow. That's really useful. So there's a lot of different uses of that. Obviously a headlamp, some extra batteries. Fire starter. This wet fire is my preferred method. Just working in Alaska, doing stuff in Alaska. This is the stuff that works when it's wet. I got some redundancy. I got a flint if I just want to spark it. Different lighters. Multi-tool is very useful for a lot of different things. Say if you want to use a blade and get in here and you know, cut up some kindling, for example, like some small pieces to get things started. If you don't find anything small, there's a lot of uses. You know, for example, in my kit that goes more just with my backpack, I've got baling wire, and this can be really useful. It's amazing what you can do with you know, Gorilla Tape and baling wire. So I'll set this stuff aside. And obviously a headlamp. I find these to be super useful. Say if you get out stranded or somebody gets cold, this is a really quick way to get some heat to them. So I carry both hand warmers and toe warmers. And so all this goes in another dry bag. So a lot of the first aid stuff, if it gets wet, is useless. So I have kind of this redundancy here. And I should just mention, this goes in my ski pack. These are great for building a binding. So if you blow out a binding. And then these are also really useful if you have to build a sled as well. So I like the cam straps and these belay straps for that. This might seem like a luxury item, but really if you stay out and you're out for more than a day, you're gonna want some liquid. And I don't know another way of like boiling water unless you have, that's something you just can't really build in the field. So I bring this, and then you can just store other things in that. There's just a case here with a lid. So that can go directly on a fire. It's just titanium, super light. In midwinter, I like to bring a thermos. This thermos could be really useful, and in a pinch, you could put it in a fire if you had to. You know, it wouldn't look good, but if you wanted to heat up more water directly, bring that. And then I like to have this on my body. This won't freeze up if it's right on your chest, and it's just a good way to have water, but that's just my preference. Okay, these are just, I have a really kind of basic kit for repair. I mentioned the baling wire. This, maybe I'll just go over kind of why I have different things. Skiing without a basket sucks. Having an extra basket's nice. This scraper I've had for 25 years. It's really nice to scrape off your skis if they get iced up. So I have that. More fire starter, so I have a second redundant kit. More of these blocks work really good. A couple extra lighters. Just kind of redundancy, that stuff is in my pack. A couple little, I do have this will fit on all of the bindings, the screws on a binding. And then this is something that I've had break before. This is the tail end, this is the back of your boot. So I do carry an extra one of those because when I was doing some skiing in South America, I broke that. So ever since then, I've taken one with me. Kind of the basic things like a beacon. I just bought a new Tracker 4. I think it's a nice upgrade, and for the price, these just save your life. And been practicing with it. Really, I think there's some really nice improvements to it. So really stoked about the beacon. Go over a little bit more of the avalanche gear that I take. When we're snowmobile skiing, I think you can take the extra weight of having the digital probe. These are super useful, easy to use, but a couple things to mention. There's a battery here, a AA battery. You want to make sure that's a new battery every season. So change that out. In the field, I bring a coin with me. You can use something like this. There's something on the beacon these days. It can be used as well. So there's different ways to get that off to get the battery compartment. But these are, practice with these, but it's really kind of useful for that fine search. Just having a way to actually get pinpointed to the beacon. So I think these are very, very useful. So the modern tools make it, your skills don't have to be as good because of it. 20 years ago, the equipment was not nearly what it is now, but obviously very useful to practice. So I don't skimp on a shovel. I think a shovel that doesn't fold out, that doesn't extend, is pretty much useless. I was digging a lot earlier this week with this shovel because I was stuck alone. and this is really useful. This Gorilla Tape isn't by accident. This becomes super useful when things break or tear. This is great stuff, so always try to have a good supply of that on hand. So where we go in the mountains, you don't always have cell service. These are teeny little inReaches. I try to always have this in my pack. Yeah, you can basically connect your phone on this. You can pair with your phone, and so you can do any type of texting you want, and just get out of text where you don't have cell service, or you have spotty cell service, or some places you can find cell service, but this makes it so you don't have to go searching for it. In an emergency situation, this is super useful. These radios, in my mind, are key. In an avalanche I was in 10 years ago, if I would have had a radio, I could have potentially avoided causing an avalanche, which ended up burying me. So the radio is key. Everybody in the group having a radio. And actually, I'm an advocate of bringing a spare. If there's a new rider or a new skier with you, to bring a radio. So it's kind of pretty high tech these days, but I think that all this stuff is useful. Obviously, this is the airbag. So I like to have this handle out and to be thinking about, when to deploy it, and have it at the ready. So that's kind of the kit that I go with, and I think it's taking care of the things that, if you have to spend the night out, you got the equipment you need to build a fire, and potentially stay warm enough, and then be able to melt water. And then you have a way to communicate to the outside group and within your group, and then the proper avalanche equipment. And then this avalanche equipment, especially the shovel, becomes useful, to build a sled, for example, useful to dig a snow cave, chop blocks of ice and snow as well. So this is kind of my kit. I'm sure others have additional things they add, and this is refined over time, but this is what's worked for me.